Register to attend a unique conference at the world-famous Ark Encounter, organized by the Wisdom Pearl. AI and the Days of Noah will address today's relevant topics such as evidence for the authenticity of the Bible, artificial intelligence, liberty of conscience, CBDCs, climate change, the sanctuary, importance of rest, Bible prophecies through the lens of the Scriptures. Visit thewisdompearl.org. Registration includes a ticket to the Ark Encounter Museum. Our speakers include Ken Ham, the founder of Ark Encounter, Pastor Ron Kelly, Eva Tompkins, Dr. Monet St. Juicy, Dr. Calvin Beisner, and many others. Separate programs for kids and teens. You don't want to miss this opportunity. Visit thewisdompearl.org. We will see you at the State-of-the-Art Answers Center Auditorium on September 13th and 14th.
As you strengthen your faith, does your anxiety go down?
I'd say the top three are stress, anxiety, and sleep deprivation right now.
We all know that living healthy would give you a less risk of disease. It would make generally it makes you have less pain, makes you be more energetic and so on. But
alcohol, while it may make someone more relaxed and feel like they can go to sleep, it destroys the sleep architecture. I would say we're well credentialed in lifestyle medicine, and we all want to have a better lifestyle. Doesn't everybody have a sense that out of all the things in your domain of interest, wouldn't we want to have a better lifestyle? So let me kick it off, and let me start with Walt. People always struggle with the balance of work and pleasure. How does one, in today's world of information, cell phones, constant messaging, how do we reconcile this balance between work and pleasure?
Well, actually, that's what we're getting ready to talk about next, is that issue of working versus pleasure or resting or whatever. And I think it's getting more and more difficult for folks today because as we look at the economy, where it's going there, you know, I get so many people who come into me, they've got one job, two jobs, even some with three jobs. And as we look at work, we find that a person who works over that 50 hours a week is more prone to cardiovascular disease. And so folks are just plumb wearing themselves out as they look at working just to make ends meet. And where they need that pleasure, that time for family, that time for play, and it's affecting significantly physiologically with health issues.
How many people in the room have trouble turning off the work? At least half. Turning it off the work. So the question is, Marcy, the question is, should we turn off work? Should all of us turn off work?
We should. I have a hard time myself. My husband have issues with that. But we should, because God has given us the law of sleep. There's 8 laws of health that God has given us in the Bible. And also with the writings of Ellen G. White, she emphasized every law of health. And one of them is the sleep. And also it's linked to the circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm, you wake up with the light, so you get these hormones, the serotonin, that you're gonna secrete the melatonin at night. So it's time for sleep, sometimes it's time to wake up. And then when we do that, we are invigorated. And it's very important because we help people, with autoimmune, very serious conditions, for decades, super serious conditions. And I know if they're not going to sleep well, they're not going to sleep on time, it's going to be affected, seriously affected. So we work hard in that law of health, which is only 1 out of the 8.
So we have work, we have pleasure, we have our waking hours, and we have sleep. So the question is for Dr. Kelly, what is lifestyle medicine? How do we integrate all that?
That's a great question. Can I say something about Mercy's question? You know what I tell my patients that are having trouble getting sleep? I tell them, start setting your alarm clock when to go to bed instead of when to get up. But anyway, to answer your question about lifestyle medicine. So lifestyle medicine is basically when the research became overwhelming that making lifestyle changes would not only prevent disease, but reverse disease. That's the turning point. And so some of us, I was the founding president, but there was a number of people that were involved in the process of starting a new specialty to make reversal of disease with lifestyle accessible to as many people as we could. And so what we're talking about is, we all know that living healthy would give you a less risk of disease. It would make generally it makes you have less pain, makes you be more energetic and so on. But when it became obvious you could actually reverse existing disease, and we still have more ground to gain there, but it's really clear. And in cardiology, I know you're well aware that, because that was one of the first places the proof became available from Ornish, Esselstyn, others.
Well, what Dr. Kelly is getting to is, in a sense, preventable fraction. It's an epidemiologic term. What fraction of illnesses that we face are truly preventable or avoidable? And it turns out in my field, in cardiology, it's a lot. There's been estimates, there's a study from UCLA, the UCLA CHAMP study years ago, 90% of heart disease is preventable. So there's a great opportunity there. It may be to a lesser extent in the area of cancer, but you can think of metabolic diseases like diabetes, for instance, a great opportunity to not become a diabetic. So Walt, tell us, in your field, what's the most common problem patients want to solve? People come to you, if you could crystallize it, what's the highest hot button for them?
I'd say the top three are stress, anxiety, and sleep deprivation right now.
Mercy, you agree?
Since we help people with autoimmune disorders, they come to us with all kinds of autoimmune disorders. It's not selective at all. So when people follow our program, which is based on the principles that God has given us and the principles of the instructions, the divine instructions that we have given us when our church was founded. Actually, our church was founded in 1863, I believe, and around that time. And then, Ellen G. White got this inspired message come from God about the health message. So it was all these principles that we learn, that we apply in our lifestyle centers around the world, are based on those principles. And God has given us a lot of success because we believe it's coming from God. So about 90% of the people that come with autoimmune disorders, they go in remission.
So patients with autoimmune disorders, that is, problems where the body's own immune system is attacking itself, in your view, can be mitigated by
they can go in remission. It has a genetic component, so it's always going to be there if you don't take care of your body, the body that God has given us. But if you follow all these principles that God has given us, and there's principles. I have pages and pages of all the principles that we have, that we apply. The work cannot stop. So right now is, again, many people are interested to do this work because now we see the need more than ever with the pandemic that's happening. So more and more people are opening up lifestyle centers throughout the world.
How many of you are not satisfied with your sleep in general? Okay, Dr. Kelly, you brought it up. What are some practical points to help such a large number of people who are not happy or satisfied with their sleep?
Well, I don't think that I can give a formula that's going to work for each and every person. It's going to be individualized. I do work with quite a few patients in my lifestyle medicine practice that have sleep issues. But yesterday we heard a presentation by my colleague here, Walt Cross. I thought covered it very well. And I'm not going to try and mention everything he said, but some of the things that I definitely use in my practice is, first is regularity. We need to our body has a clock. Let's use it to our advantage instead of disadvantage. And so we need to have regularity. And not only regularity of, I'm talking not only about going to bed at a consistent time and getting up, I'm talking about eating at a consistent time as well. Many things. You know, we also heard yesterday, I forget who it was talking about how habits can be so helpful or so harmful, but at least we're in charge of our habits. We really can make habits. And so we need to make them so that we have regularity. And the second thing I emphasize quite a bit is the importance of having adequate exercise and rest. So, and I believe, Walt, you mentioned that, the importance of doing some physical activity, mild physical activity, not, say an hour or so before bedtime. It does help to be physically tired, helps us go to sleep. But I mean, it's almost everything. Your entire lifestyle has some impact on your sleep patterns. But again, I mean, the take home is, listen, if you're not aware of this, read and learn more about the body clock and how it can help you, especially with sleep.
Walt, does alcohol help or hurt sleep in general?
It definitely hurts it.
And why is that? How does that happen?
Well, you may fall asleep, but then you're going to wake up and your body's going to now have the effects of the alcohol. And after the alcohol, usually you're more tired the next morning, you aren't doing too well. So yes, you may fall asleep with it, but then, you're going to wake up usually several hours later. And then now you're going to have a hard time going to sleep.
See, this is an important point. As you're ministering to others out there, I know the Adventists aren't drinkers, but you may interface in your walks of life with others who are, and that is something that the data are very clear on. Alcohol, while it may make someone more relaxed and feel like they can go to sleep, it destroys the sleep architecture. There is a dream weave of REM and non-REM sleep, and one drink of alcohol will destroy that. In fact, a great book to recommend is called The 28-Day Alcohol Challenge, and it's about two guys in England who are just kind of beer drinking guys in the bar. They do an experiment, and they stop drinking, and they chronicle everything that happens to their lives, including losing 15 pounds and having blood pressure go down. And one of the most remarkable things is the restoration of sleep, that people who drink alcohol, even a drink a month, because this is the way I explain it to patients. If you drink alcohol and you get a bad night's sleep, then the next day there's increases in stress hormones, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine. And these stress hormones then set the body on edge, and then you have another bad night's sleep, then you drink some more alcohol, it becomes a vicious cycle. So I tell people, listen, 28 days, stop drinking alcohol, and you tell me, are you lighter? Are you fitter? Are you happier around your family members? Are you sleeping better? And most of the time, people say, yeah, I can see a difference. Oh, let me say one more thing about alcohol. Alcohol raises blood pressure, no doubt about it. It's a leading risk factor for atrial fibrillation, leading risk factor. A leading risk factor for macular degeneration in the eye, which is a leading cause of blindness in older people, and a leading determinant of dementia. No one wants to have dementia lower in life. So if one wants to be free of these problems, and they'll try to negotiate. Well, isn't it better to drink alcohol and the French hypothesis have a little lower rate of coronary heart disease? Well, that may be true because HDL cholesterol goes up a little bit. It's not worth the trade-off, in my view, of the other things. So I think it's a trade-off, and one has to look at that. So terrific. Other comments?
Well, I just want to say about alcohol is even if the French paradox is actually correct, there is plenty of evidence that even a single drink increases your risk of cancer, and that's not a good trade.
Yeah, cancer for sure of the mouth, of the esophagus, liver disease, seizures, auto accidents. I mean, it keeps going on and on. But atrial fibrillation is a big ticket item. So some of you in the room have AFib. I know you do. It's about 15% of adults get it. It's a complicated heart rhythm. It's related to stroke. It mandates the use of blood thinners. I mean, it's all, honestly, a lot of it's avoidable. Okay, Walt, back to you. You mentioned anxiety. Tell us about an approach, or at least a few talking points about free-floating anxiety. Free-floating anxiety means you don't know what's causing it, but you just feel anxious. It's floating, it literally kind of floats all around you. Free-floating anxiety. Tell us about that.
You know, it's going back to lifestyle. If I take a piece of sandpaper and I'm rubbing my arm, and she comes up and says, honey, let me put some medicine on there. And she puts some medicine on there, and then she leaves, and I start to rubbing again. She puts medicine. It's not going to heal until I stop the cause. And many times people with anxiety, they're not following just lifestyle issues. You know, it's a brain issue. And so we've got to take away anything from the brain that may cause harm to the brain, and then give the brain what it needs to operate properly. And, you know, looking at, you know, when we're stressed, we're dumping B vitamins, we're dumping lithium, we're dumping magnesium. Well, we need enough to deal with the next stressor. So if we can't get it through nutrition, and we want to get it through nutrition if we can, then you know, an old doc in 1978 at Florida Hospital told me, he said, Walt, if you want to help a person in this area, get them some B complex. It's amazing how much it helps. And it does. Lithium orotate, Neil Nedley talks about. Magnesium, that's huge. And so there's things that we can do, but getting their sleep, getting their exercise, those basic laws of health, if we can proactively hit it, we help tremendously in helping people with anxiety.
But in your opinion, why are people anxious? What are the leading causes of this free-floating anxiety?
You know, I have a good friend, he's a neurologist, and he works mostly with the brain. And he said post-COVID, it's gone crazy anxiety that he and his, you know, his folks out there who work with brain issues have found more and more anxiety. And as we go towards, you know, whether it's uncertainty, as this world moves closer towards the end, we're going to see more and more anxiety, whether it's financial, whether it's job security, whether it's just political, whatever. There's a lot of stimulants.
Mercy.
About anxiety, I think it's also related to leaky gut. They call it leaky gut, leaky brain. It's really affected. So because when we see people that have these digestive issues, serious digestive issues, there was this guy that said, you know, I had leaky gut, I had all kind of symptoms. So, you know, we follow the program and that is gone. But that's not the best thing. My anxiety, my depression is gone. That is what it was the most impactful thing. So it starts in the digestion. So if our nutrients absorb well, things like this, it's going to absorb well in the brain also. So it's going to decrease inflammation in the gut, and it's going to decrease inflammation in the brain. So it's going to put people to relax.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to share that I collect data. I'm trained in epidemiology, so I can't help it. But anyway, I collect data on every patient. And I publish data showing that when you make a lifestyle change, it doesn't matter if you came for cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity. I do an SF-36 and a Beck depression inventory coming in and going out. And those improve dramatically. Believe it or not, it is very therapeutic for your mental health to make a positive lifestyle change and see the results in your blood work. You know, recently, to tell you how powerful it can be, just most recent event I was involved with, we had the patient that came that had a LDL, that's the bad cholesterol, of 209, okay? So that's more than you want your total to be. But 7 days later, he was at 88. I saw that. Most people would say, "Well, what happened? Did his liver fail, or you know, how could you do that? Because the liver makes cholesterol." But we are a Christian lifestyle program that we do in local churches, and I've seen bigger changes than I had seen in residential centers. So I think God is at work as well as the enemy in these days.
What do people think? As you strengthen your faith, does your anxiety go down? I mean, isn't that a big part of this? It really is. I know I kind of meet a lot of people in a lot of different settings those who really are strong in their faith, they know themselves, they know God is working through them, through the Holy Spirit, they pray, they have less anxiety. They really do. I think there's a relationship.
Yes, thank you. When we were talking about this earlier, I meant to mention that I think that while sleep is an important part of rest, actually a seventh-day worship of God coming apart. I mean, I see benefits whether published, whether you're a Sabbatarian or a Sundaytarian or a Fridatarian, whatever day you rest, if you have a day of rest, it's a blessing to your health. And there's published data showing this, isn't there?
There is. I just think that, we are amenable to structure. If we have some structure, it settles us down. That if we sense that there's an enormity of, our tasks at hand, to divide it up into small, accomplishable segments. Yes, well.
I've had a lady coming in for over 20 years, and she just had kind of a wired-up personality, fast to jump on something. And I've noticed a change over the last bit, and recently she came in and she had some health issues, and I said, 0 to 10, what is your stress level? She said, 0. I said, no, 0 meaning no stress, 10 meaning a lot of stress. What's your number? She says, 0. I said, how's it 0? She says, I found Jesus 2 years ago. And she says, I just give everything to him now. It's that simple. No, it's hard to give away, but he will take it if we'll allow him.
Also, what I see in people is that when you help somebody, when you treat somebody, it has to be not just your health, it has to be the spiritual part. Because God is what helps to people follow through the health changes. Without God, it's impossible. People die eating what they like, but they need the power of God to help them. So we see that the mental and the physical and the spiritual has to go together. So prayer helps. So when we pray with people that are not even Christians, we ask permission, can I pray for you? And so we pray for their specific needs, and they just so appreciate it. Little by little, they just want to know more about God, and we can see healing coming. So it's powerful.
Our clinic has kind of a team prayer every day just before we start. And it's the one time that everyone's together in a circle, and you get a sense of, there's a prayer list, and you get a sense of the tone, and people take turns. It's such a simple thing to do, but there is a sense of resetting. We all need to kind of reset for the tasks at hand, and I think the important points is to understand that all of us have a tendency to be overwhelmed. It's a natural human response to everything around us. The information technology, don't forget, the people in this room here, most of you have lived through life with no computers and cell phones. Who remembers that? Can you imagine what the arc of our lives has been from? Remember, mankind for centuries was paper and pencil. Centuries. And then suddenly our generation, went from paper and pencil to computers and cell phones. There is no generation that's managed the velocity of change as we have. So in many ways, we are entitled to be stressed, if you will, because we're constantly being called upon to adapt. So, Walt, I want to ask you, how much, if you were to take stress and you were to divide it up into major categories of stress, give us the palette of what you see as causes of stress, marriage, financial, etc.
Definitely, I see finances as a huge one, very much. Another one is their health condition. And then their children. It could be the condition of their children. I see great-grandparents raising great-grandchildren their children and their grandchildren are in prison for drugs. And so now they're raising the great-grandchildren, not just grandchildren. We see a lot of that. Also marriage relationships. That's a huge one. That's what I see a lot of.
I see, with the changes that have happened lately with the pandemic, the suicide rate has increased greatly because with the craziness that's happening around the globe, it's not just sections, but it's around the globe. It's just not the same. The lives that we're living at these times definitely are affecting greatly people.
Yeah, I appreciate all of those things. I think that in my case, thinking of the people I work with to make intensive lifestyle changes, probably the biggest thing is their health. Of course, and I preface that because I do take the more severe cases, and we try to maximize the dosing of lifestyle change. So I would say it's their health. But another thing that I see increasing is this, what shall I call it? It's like the population, society is getting more irritable. Whereas you used to be able to have a civil conversation, it's not really that easy sometimes, especially if you want to talk about anything that's worth talking about. I know when I was a kid, I grew up in a home where they said, okay, whatever you do, we don't discuss religion or politics because there would be an argument, right? But I think it's gotten worse, and that's what they tell me anyway, is that I don't really have that many people I can talk to, is what I hear them saying. I don't have that many people I can talk to.
As a nation and as a world, are we becoming more divided? Do people feel that? Yes. Are we becoming more tribal? Like you have to be in one tribe or another? Why is that? Walt, why are we becoming more divided?
I believe we're being taught to do that through media, through politics. If you believe this certain way, then you're going to wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask, then you must be part of that tribe, or whatever it might be. And I think media is driving that significantly, and I think higher education is driving that also.
And this polarization is definitely about evil and truth. And that's why all of us are here. And I just appreciate the fellowship because like-minded people, because we cannot find it in the world. In the world, it's just so difficult to find it. It's just, so I think as Jesus is nearing to come, there is this evil that is showing, with force. So, but at the same time, we have God, that is giving us the light, how to survive and live at these end times. So I super appreciate about all the prophecy that God has given us to how to live in the times, these difficult times.
A number of the folks who are technologists that have designed and built the social media, they do not allow their children to do that. Think about it. And the other thing, my kids are 50-some years of age, okay? They're going to do what they do. But I have noticed that I have a reaction when I was doing too much online stuff. And I understand now how come it happened. It's actually, I think in the grand scheme, it's diabolical. I think that the enemy of mankind has engineered this, but I believe the people who example started Google or Facebook, I don't think they set out to do that intending to hurt our society. But to monetize their product, which they had given away free, they have to find a way to sell us as the product. And what that means is what they are selling are clicks. And so when I go on any kind of a free site and it's monetized, their system monitors my clicks, figures out what pattern of things I'm interested in, and that's what they put on the screen. So they actually make us live in even bigger silos than we naturally have. And so I can't say I never go on it, but when I do as little clicking as possible. And I actually, in my computer, my phone keeps telling me, your screen time is down. I love that when it says your screen time is down. Yes.
Well, what Dr. Kelly's talking about is what's called clickbait. Clickbait. So clickbait is someone showing you an image, and you don't know where that came from, and then they tell you what the image is. Here's a bunch of people huddling at a border. And you don't even know what side of the border it is. You don't know who these people are and where they're going. You're just told that this represents a crisis. Okay? Or you're shown a picture of an ice cap melting, and you're told it's a crisis and that it must be due to global warming. So what we're telling, I think, all of you, is be wary of clickbait. Be open to being able to talk to both sides. People always ask me, Dr. McCullough, what side are you on? What tribe are you on? I said, I'm an independent. I can vote on either side. Happy to talk to all of you. Happy to help all of you. When it comes to conflicts, they say, well, what side are you on? I said, listen, I'm a doctor. I took an oath to preserve life. I cannot choose a side in a military conflict. That's not happening. If we all took that type of stand, we'd be much closer to getting peace in the world. We'd be much closer to having conversations. I read the book by Jared Diamond, Guns, Knives, Germs, and Steel, that book, and there's another one called Collapse. And in Collapse, he talks about the collapse of civilizations. And it turns out the longest lasting civilizations out there, some of them are in Polynesia. They've been around for about 6,000 years. They have the characteristic of, what they do of all the different fractions? They talk. And they talk, and they talk, and they talk, and they talk out their problems. They don't shoot each other to death or stab each other to death. They talk it out. And if we actually just talked enough, met with enough, if we actually lived as Christ was showing us how to live, we wouldn't be in this predicament. This has been a great panel. Thank you so much. Walt, John, and Mercy, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to turn it back over to Mario, and we'll go on to the next segment. Thank you.
Hello, world! Register for the AI in the Days of Noah conference held at the world-famous Ark Encounter. Visit thewisdompearl.org for the details.